Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. One of the most divisive questions in the fitness space is the question of bulking. Lots of popular YouTubers completely demonize it, while a lot of others promote it a bit too much. With that, it can be pretty confusing what path to take, and in this video I will show you the answer. Now, calorie intake is a spectrum, with cutting on one end and bulking on the other. In this video I will mainly discuss bulking, but I will also say which groups will be better off cutting instead. Cutting is defined as a calorie deficit, or in other words, burning more calories than you eat. In general, your cuts should be significantly shorter than your bulks, and they should only be used to complement them. The way you should think about cutting is to reduce your body fat percentage so you can bulk more. In this application of the practice, you should only bulk when the fat you gain from bulking becomes too much, around 18 to 22% or whatever you deem too much. But make sure you are actually bulking sufficiently to make gains. You should not be doing baby bulks of only a few pounds. You should be doing long and slow bulks. If you are a beginner, you can bulk for a year to a year and a half, no problem. You should cut only until you reach a relatively low but easy to sustain body fat percentage. This should be around 10 to 15%, but for most people it will fall around 12 to 13%. Now, on to maintenance, the most forgotten part of the spectrum. Maintenance is a state where you neither gain nor lose a single pound over an extended amount of time. Keep in mind, we are only looking at the average weight over that time, and not every time you measure, because that can easily change depending on if you drank enough water, are full from a meal, or haven't pooped in a long time. For beginners, maintenance should only be done if you are decently chubby, but not enough to start a cut. In this mode of being, you are feeding your workouts with the fat on your body instead of a calorie surplus like a leaner person must, meaning you will get both leaner and bigger at the same time. This will most likely be significantly slower than a person who bulks and cuts. Outside of this context, beginners should only use maintenance at the end of bulks or cuts for a week or two to stabilize their body. There is another concept here worth discussing: main gaining. Main gaining is a concept invented by Greg Doucette which has no clear defined meaning. There are several meanings that he switches around depending on situation to make himself sound better. The most popular definition is that main gaining is staying at maintenance but gaining weight and muscle without gaining fat. That is not how the human body works. By definition, you cannot gain weight while in maintenance, and you certainly cannot gain weight and muscle without a little bit of fat. Also, a person who main gains, who is most likely skinny if they follow Greg Doucette, probably doesn't have the necessary fat reserves to feed their body and actually force it to grow, meaning that their progress is almost non-existent. Do not main gain. On to bulking, the final piece of this spectrum. Bulking is defined by having a noticeable calorie surplus over a long time, which will lead to fat gain, and if you train, muscle gain along with it. This is by far the most demonized element of the spectrum, because certain prominent figures in this community have fear-mongered against it, by pretending that anyone who bulks will get fat or obese. This is far from the truth. An actual bulk done properly will be the undisputed best way to gain strength and size, and is a necessary part of bodybuilding. There are several types of bulks. A clean bulk is a bulk where you refrain from eating junk food just for the purpose of getting more calories in. Unless you have a very large appetite, this will also mean that you will bulk slower, but will be healthier. A dirty bulk is the opposite. It is where you eat junk food just to cram in more calories, because you think it will lead to more gains. This is not how bulking works. Eating a 1000 calorie surplus will not give you twice the gains of eating a 500 calorie surplus. It probably won't give you a significant increase in gains at all. All it will mean is that you will have to cut sooner and longer, meaning you are wasting more time because you aren't in an anabolic state. I only recommend dirty bulking if you are physically unable to eat enough calories to bulk while eating clean food. I recommend a surplus between 300 and 500 calories a day. This will put you in a sweet spot where you are in enough of a surplus to feed your workouts, but without gaining lots of unnecessary fat. If you were to have any smaller of a surplus, it would become very difficult to track. For example, if you were to eat a 100 calorie surplus, even very small differences like parking your car a bit further from the store or taking a short walk during the day could get you completely out of your surplus or even into a deficit, meaning you aren't bulking anymore. You shouldn't be afraid of a bit of fat gain. Your bulks should be long and slow. If you are a skinny novice, you should bulk for at least 8 months, but can comfortably bulk for a year and a half with no issues if you bulk at a good tempo. Now, what foods should you eat while bulking? This is a question a lot of people ask themselves, but the answer is simple. You should eat the same food you ate before, but in slightly higher quantities. That is, if you ate relatively clean before. Your diet doesn't need to be perfect. Do not buy into the mainstream fitness fear and their lies about certain foods. There is no such thing as a superfood, and there is no food you must eat. Likewise, there is no food you cannot eat. Do not buy into certain people saying things like fruit, bread, or meat are bad for you. They are not. The only things that really are bad for you are super processed foods, like seed oils or junk food. Even with junk food, the issue isn't the food itself, but the things they put into it. If you made your own burger instead of buying it from McDonald's, while fully knowing the ingredients going into it, it would be healthy. Now, onto the macro profile of your diet. In my opinion, this is the most overrated part of this discussion. Your macro split really doesn't matter too much. Your fat should be enough to let your body produce the necessary hormones, which is around 50 grams per day. Protein is overrated in my opinion. You do not need to eat an insane amount of it, nor do you need to supplement it, especially if you are a beginner. This entire myth was created by supplement companies to make people use more protein powder per serving, meaning they will have to buy another batch sooner. At most, you need around 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight, but going lower will be fine too,